Hello everyone, welcome back to the new video. And in this today video we are going to talk about the morphology of the flowering plants. Okay, so student, you have to understand first that what is morphology. Okay, so morphology is the study of the external structure, okay, of an organism. So if you are studying the external structure of an organism, then it is known as the morphology. So in flowering plant, student, the morphology, it will help in understanding the form and the function of different parts. Okay, so what are the parts of the flowering plant, student? The root. The first one is the root. Okay, so because we are going to study the morphology of flowering plant, it is must that we should know what we are going to study. Okay, so we are going to study the root system. Okay, then we are going to study the second part, that is the stem. Then we are going to study the leaf. Okay, so what is leaf, how the leaves are arranged in the plant. Okay, the fourth thing we are going to study in this video is the inflorescence, that is the arrangement of the flower. Okay, the fifth point we are going to study in this video is the flower itself. Okay, then sixth we are going to discuss is fruit. Okay, the seventh one is the seed. Okay, and in the last we will just take the example of the typical flower. Okay, so we will learn the technical formula for it, semi-technical. Okay, so let's start the topic one by one. So first we are going to discuss the roots. So student, we all know the root is the underground part. Okay, so what does mean underground means? Underground means it is below the ground surface. Okay, ground level, and it will develop from the radicle. So this is a seed, student. So the seed, when it will germinate, it will have two parts. The first part is the radicle. Okay, and this part, the above part, is the known as plumule. So what will happen? The seed is inside the soil. Okay, so what will happen? The portion that is below the soil, that is underground, okay, the radical one, it will develop into the roots. Okay, and the plumule one will grow further and will give rise to the aerial portion of the plant. Okay, so the root is developed from the radicle and it's the underground part of the plant. Okay, and what is what is the role of the underground portion of the plant, that is the root? So it will help in the anchoring. Okay, anchoring means keeping the plant firm in the soil. Beside that, in the soil is the most abundant source of the water as well as the nutrient. Okay, so the roots will also help in the absorption of water and nutrient, okay, for the growth of the plant, okay, from the soil. So now let's understand the various regions of root. Okay, student, so broadly, suppose this is the root. So there are four parts. Okay, so first one is the root cap. The second one is the meristematic region. Okay, then there is a elongation zone or the elongation region, and then the maturation region. So student, this is the root cap. So cap, we all know that it will provide a protection. Okay, so the root cap will provide the protection to the plant, okay, by preventing the damage to the growing tip. Okay, so this is the growing tip, so it is outside, so it will prevent the damage. Okay, then in the tip there is a meristematic region. This region is meristematic. So meristematic region, student, it will contain the actively dividing cell. Okay, that's why the roots keeps growing on. Okay, so it will just elongate. Okay, it will grow from here to here, and this is because of this meristematic cells. Okay, the reason, and this meristematic region is the one that is protected by the root cap, okay, from getting damaged. Then there is a elongation region, okay. So the elongation region is, this one is the elongation region. So the elongation region, student, it will, the cell will enlarge, okay. The enlargement of cell, it will lead to the elongation of the root, okay. And the last region is the maturation region. This is the outer cell that will differentiate to form the root hairs, okay. And the purpose of this region is to provide the increased surface area for the absorption purpose, okay. So this is all about the various regions of the roots. I hope it is clear to you. Now let's quickly talk about the types of roots. So basically, student, there are three types of root. The first one is a tap root, okay. So in the tap root, there will be a single primary root, okay. So this single primary root will be there, and there will be some lateral branches, okay. But there will be only single root, okay. So this kind of root system is observed in the mustard, okay. Then the next type of the root is the fibrous root, okay. So in the fibrous root, what will happen, student? This is the aerial portion of the plant, okay. So there will be a bunch of fiber like roots, okay. So these fiber like roots, they are originating from a base, okay. Okay, from a single base there will be a bunch of fiber kind of root, okay. So this kind of fibrous root system is found in the wheat, student. And the third type of the root is the adventitious root. Okay, so adventitious root in this, student, the root, it can grow from other part other than the stem base, okay. So the roots, they can grow from the stem also, okay, or they can even grow from the leaves also. And this kind of rooting system is found in the banyan tree, and it is also observed in the maize also. If you have carefully seen the maize, then it is observed there also, okay. Now let's talk about the root modification. So student, there are three types of root modification. The first one is for the storage purpose, okay. So in the storage purpose, the food will be stored, and this kind of root modification is observed in carrot and in the radish, okay. So the root will store the food. The second root modification is the supporting root, okay. This is, for the name itself indicate that it is for providing the support. So in the maize, you can see there are the stilt root, okay. So this will arise from the stem reason. So this will provide the support to the plant, okay. Then there are respiratory root also. So the name again itself indicate that these kind of roots help, they will help in the respiration process, okay. And this is observed in the pneumatophores, okay. So this is, student, all about the root system. Now let's move to the second topic, that is the stem, okay. So now we are going to discuss the stem. So student, the stem, we know it is the aerial portion, okay. Aerial means it is in the air, okay. And we already told you, we also know this, that it is originating from the above ground portion of the seed, that is the plumule, okay. And the main role for the stem is the provide the structural support and transportation. So roots, they are the absorbing the water and the nutrient from the soil, but it has to be transferred to the other portion, right, of the plant, that is the leaves, flower, etc., right, fruits also. So this is done by the stem, because the root, above the root is the stem, okay. So they will act as a transport medium also. So now we already discussed in the about the functions also, that it will provide the support, okay. And it will conduct also, it will store also food in few cases, okay. So what are the example of the food storage stem? Like you can see in the sugarcane. Okay, so the stem is very juicy, right? So it will store the food. And then potato also. So potato. And then some stems cutting, they will also assist in the reproduction. Okay, so from some stem cutting, the new plant will also grow. So they will provide a medium for the reproduction. So these are the chief function, okay, of the stem. Now let's talk about the stem modification. So basically three types of stem modification is there. The storage one, okay, so again the starch will be stored in the, if the starch is stored in the stem, then it will act as a storage function, and this kind of stem modification is observed in potato. Okay, so where the starch is stored in the stem, in the tubers. Okay, then there is the another modification, that is the climbing one. So this will help in climbing. Okay, so cucumber, this modification is observed in the cucumber. So the stem is quite slender, and it will help the, it is in the form of tendril, and it will help the plant to climb, okay, to get the enough sunlight, okay, for their food synthesis. Then there are some stem modification, okay, that is meant for the protection. So example, bougainvillea, it will have the stem will have the thorns, okay, so the bougainvillea flower can be protected, okay, by these thorns. Okay, so this is all about the stem. Now let's talk about the leaf. So leaf, with students, we all know that leaf, it will develop from the shoot apex. Okay, and it is responsible for photosynthesis and respiration. So leaves are very important for the survival of the plant. Okay, so the leaf will have, student, the venation. Okay, so what do you mean by the venation? Venation is known as the arrangement of veins, okay, in leaves. So you have observed, okay, this kind of leaf, okay, this is the leaf, then this is the vein. Okay, so how they are arranged, these veins, okay, this pattern is known as venation. Okay, so based on the venation pattern, there are two kind of vein arrangement in the leaf. That is, the first one is the reticulate. Okay, so the reticulate one is observed in the dicots. Okay, in the ficus we can see, this is the ficus leaf, so you can see like the veins are arranged in a form of a network. Okay, this kind of arrangement is there. So this is the reticulate venation, is the network kind of arrangement, and it is mostly found in the dicot. Okay, then the second type of vein arrangement is the parallel venation, student, and this is common in the monocot. Okay, and also observed in the banana. Okay, so in this kind of venation, what will happen, this is the, like suppose this is the banana leaf. Okay, so they will run parallel to each other like this. Okay, okay, now let's talk about the arrangement of the leaves. Phyllotaxy. So phyllotaxy, it means that the arrangement of leaf where on the stem. Okay, so basically, student, there are three kind of phyllotaxy. The first one is the alternate. So in the alternate, the each node on the stem has only one leaf attached. Okay, so the leaves are arranged in a spiral or zigzag. Okay, so this is the arrangement here. This is the node. Okay, so only one leaf is there, and then another leaf is on another node. Okay, so this kind of arrangement is the alternate arrangement. Okay, and this is observed in the sunflower. The second type of leaf arrangement is the opposite one. So in this opposite one, the leaves are arranged in the opposite. Okay, they are quite opposite to each other. And this kind of is observed in guava. And the third kind of arrangement is the whorled arrangement. Whorled means they are in the bunch. Okay, so from a single node there are so many leaves. Okay, so this is a whorl kind of arrangement, and this is observed in the case of Alstonia. Okay, now let's talk about the inflorescence. So student, what is inflorescence? It's the arrangement of flower. Okay, so if somebody asks you the definition of the inflorescence, then it is the arrangement of flower, and where the flowers are arranged, they are arranged on the floral axis. Okay, so there are two kinds of inflorescence. Okay, the first one is the racemose and the another one is the cymose. Okay, so in the racemose one, what will happen? The main axis grow indefinitely. And this kind of inflorescence is observed in the mustard. Okay, whereas in the case of the cymose, the main axis terminate into a flower. Okay, example in the case of the jasmine. Okay, so if this is the axis, then the jasmine, the cymose one, it will have a flower and the terminal, whereas in the racemose type, there is like, it will continue grow. Okay, the fifth one is the flower. So student, we know that the flowers, they are the reproductive structure in the angiosperm. Okay, and there are four main parts of the flower. That is, the first one is the calyx. Okay, so it includes the sepal. Okay, and the sepal will protect the flower bud. Okay, the second one, student, is the corolla. So corolla is the petals. Okay, group of petals. And why do we need petals? The catchy petals, the colorful petals, they will help in the pollinator attraction. Okay, then we'll talk about the male and female part. The male part is known as androecium, and it will contain the stamens. Okay, and the female part is known as gynoecium. Okay, and it will constitute the pistil. Okay, the sixth one is, student, the fruits. Okay, so the fruit, we know it will develop from the ovary. Okay, after the process of the fertilization. Okay, so there are three types of fruit. The first one is the simple one. What does it mean? The simple one, it will develop from single ovary, and this we can see in the case of mango. Okay, so there will be a single fruit. Then there are aggregate fruit. So this kind of aggregate is a bunch, right? So this will kind of fruit is developed from the multiple ovaries of one flower. Okay, so the example, we can see the strawberry. Okay, so there will be the they will occur in the aggregates. Then there are multiple fruits also. So in this, the fruit is developed from multiple flowers. Okay, and this kind of fruit, the example is the pineapple. Okay, and the last one we are going to talk about is the seed. So seed, we know it contains the embryo. Okay, and it will store the food, okay, for the purpose of germination. So there are basically two kinds of seeds, okay. So the dicot and the monocot. So the monocot will have the single seed, okay, they cannot be split into two, okay. This example includes the wheat or the maize, okay. Whereas the dicot, it can be the seed can be split into two equal parts, okay. This we can observe in the case of the gram, okay. So you can just divide the seed into two. So this is all in brief about the morphology of the flowering plant. Now before closing the video, let's talk about the semi-technical description of typical flower. So when we are providing a semi-technical description of a typical flower, so it has to be done in a certain coding manner. So we are taking the example of Solanaceae. So the example includes the Solanaceae is the tomato and the potato. So while we are writing the semi-technical description, student, so we just mention it into the 4 point. So we will write K, C, A and G, okay. So this K, student, it represents the calyx, okay. This C represent the corolla, A is androecium and G is the gynoecium, okay. So the if you look carefully into the flowers of tomato and potato, then the calyx, they are usually sepals, that they are usually around 5 in number, okay. And same is with the corolla, that is the petals, so they are 5 in number. There are 5 androecium also, and they have the 2 gynoecium, okay. So the formula for the semi-technical description of typical Solanaceae flower is K5, C5, A5 and G2, okay. So this is how you write the description of a typical flower. So you can observe, student, any flower and just according to the observed calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium, you can just derive them and write their number, okay, in this K, C, A, G, okay. So this is all in this video. Thank you for watching the video.